today we got to play Get On Board New York and London. How can you have New York and London?
Because it's New York on the 2 to 3 player side and London on the 4 to 5 player side.
Ah, so we got to play in New York.
We have to play in New York.
Okay, all right. So before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell because board games are amazing. So this is from iEllo Games, and it was released this year.
It was released, this year in 2022. It's got a Board Game Geek rating of 7.2 and a Board Game Geek rank of 3527. It's a 2 to 5 player game, 30 minutes average length, age is 8 and up. Designed by Sashi. Art is by Monsieur Z. And as mentioned, it's published by iEllo or Yellow, depending on your pronunciation. Its MSRP is $29.99. It is available at both Miniature Market and Card House for $23.99, so take your pick.
Okay, all right, so let's talk about quality of components. Now, you literally get Catan robes.
No, I think they're actually a little smaller than Catan robes.
Okay, a little bit smaller than Catan robes, but they do come in a better color palette. Or at least there's purple. The brown, there's purple.
It's supposed to be red, I think, but it looks more brown than red.
You're right. And then you do get these little
stoplights. And they fit the board, like the icons on the board perfectly.
Now, your card quality, no linen finish.
No linen finish, small cards.
Small cards.
They have the bus tickets have little holes in them, which I'm not sure. Maybe that's, I've never ridden a bus, I don't think. So,
really?
Do you actually have ticket holes on the bus tickets? Okay, then I guess that makes sense. I don't know. I've never ridden a bus.
I've
ridden the school bus. You don't pay tickets to get on the school bus.
No, well, way back when you would get you would buy so many, and then every time you used it, you get a stamp, and eventually you use up your card.
So you don't do that in this game. Don't punch holes in it. That would be bad.
Don't do that. But yeah, now most of the time that don't really have that as much now. But anyway, so there's that.
The board is nice. It's two-sided. One for the 2 to 3 players and one for the 4 to 5, which takes up more space.
Then you have, this is a bit of a not roll, but flip and write.
It's a flip and write, and it's got a score pad that's two-sided, so you'll get twice as many plays as the thickness of the pad, which is an okay thickness. It's not great. And you get little golf pencils, which we don't use.
Yeah, I mean, overall, quality 6, and that's where I'm at.
It was a board, I'll give it a 6.5. It's not great, but it's got a little bit more to it than some of your other roll and writes. Yes.
All right, so now let's talk about the theme. The theme is that you are trying to develop a bus route that meets the criteria of the city. So in this case, in New York, I'm trying to go to these places. And in so doing it, you want to pick up passengers of different kinds and take them to the locations they need to go, right? So you want to maybe pick up a bunch of businessmen and make sure you end up in the business sector. Or maybe you're looking at more providing stuff for tourists or old ladies. Or students, right? It's kind of up to you on what you pick up, and based on the way your route takes you, you'll get victory points for it. It's okay.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting theme, and it
fits.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an interesting puzzle, and you have routes that are more congested, so you take penalties if you have to go through them. Well, that's not necessarily
theme.
No, I'm just saying. I think the play fits the theme pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm fine with it. It's just not that exciting.
I think it's okay.
It's okay. It's just not exciting.
To me, it's just no more or less exciting than Ticket to Ride's theme.
Fair.
So, yeah, I'm probably a 7. I think it's fine. It fits the theme of the game.
I don't know. Trains are a bit cooler than buses.
You're playing a route. You're connecting destinations. If you want to use your imagination, a train is different than a bus.
Now listen, if they said this was the night bus.
Okay, now I'm curious what happens on the night bus. So you're taking a Harry Potter reference.
Right. No, it could be so interesting because the bus
I'm thinking
gets
of the
smaller.
party buses in Vegas or something. I'm like, okay. What?
Yeah, no, we could totally make this work. Night bus version has special rules for the buses. This could be cool. Skip a space. I don't know. We can make fun with this. All right, but before. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Giving it a score, theme-wise, what you give it?
I said 7.
Oh, okay. I agree.
You don't have to. You can say what you want.
I can't think of any other number.
You're just going with this because it says 7 on top.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe a little high. I'll probably stick with a 6.5 for this one. It's okay. It's a bus route. All right, so now let's talk about the rule book.
So the rule book has a nice cover. It's got a little verbiage about the kind of this backstory, but the writing looks like something you'd see in like one of the old 60s sitcoms, like Bewitched or something like that. Mm-hmm. And the art style looks like 50s, 60s era too. It goes through into detail of how to, quick setup. It's only, by the way, 12 pages long, and
it's not a very complex
fairly small.
game.
Yeah, it's a fairly
it is
game.
For like 8 and up.
Yeah,
so.
The scoring's the hardest part of it, just understanding how each of the passenger types works. Yeah, I think it's labeled nicely. Each thing is color coded and sectioned, and talking about traffic jams in yellow, green lights, and what you do, and detours are in red, and so I think they've kept like the motif of what you would see as stoplight in here, and then you've got the scoring of the different passenger types.
So overall, give it a score. What are you thinking?
I think it's a decent rule book. I'm probably going to go ahead and give this probably a 7.5. I don't think there's anything outstanding about it, but it's fine. It does its job pretty well.
Yeah. All right. So now let's talk about the actual gameplay. So. Basically what ends up happening is you get a starting card. Now, there are 2 starting locations that you can choose from when you get your card. And not only is there a starting location, there's also 3, actually it's a separate card that has starting locations.
Yeah, you get 2 of these bus tickets that will be based upon the player count and the side of the board you're playing, whether you use 1 through 6 or
but
the
this
entire 12
gives you
tickets.
the route that you need.
Yeah.
So basically it's not the same route, it's the connection, right? So it tells you the 3 points that you have to connect in the game to get 10 victory points. Now you don't have to connect them, but losing 10 points in this game,
that's a huge value.
That's a pretty
You're playing at about
dramatic.
60 to 70 points if you're lucky.
Yeah, so that's pretty dramatic. So do caution that you probably do want to get them. All right. So basically, once you have your starting route, everyone will put their bus tickets back in. This will obviously get shuffled. It will get flipped over, and then every round you'll flip over 1 card. Now in this case, I have 5. So I would go to my card. Now my card is different than everyone else's. Okay, so I'm going to go find the 5. And the 5 for this one is 1 single straight line, okay? So if I were to be first player, then I would go and I'm like, okay, I can draw 1 little thing. I'm going to put that down here, and I'm going to trigger that. So I'm going to head to I'm picking up a tourist because that's the new thing that I'm touching. And then I will put a circle on my tourist. Now, if I were to land on a lady, I would circle her. If I was going to a student, I would circle her. If I was going to a businessman, I would circle him. Now, the thing about the businessman and the tourist is that once you hit a drop-off location, you can't get any more in that row. You X out the remaining ones, and you get the victory points based on how many you completed that area.
Each row basically is going to the same bus stop. So if you drop off and you didn't you didn't fill all the seats, then you just mark them out. You don't get the points for them.
Yes, and obviously, like here for the tourists, if you got all 4 on your bus completed, that's 14 points versus only 1's 2. So it's a pretty dramatic difference. So it might be worth, just trying to make sure you have a good tourist, or the same thing with the businessman. You can get 6 points for having 3 of them on your bus, but you also get a secondary person if you complete those.
Yeah.
So
and the business people, if you get a full row, you get a student, and that's the only way to get the final 3 students is to get those.
And those are multipliers, students times universities that you hit on your route. So those can add up pretty quickly as well.
They can score you up to 36 points. Just
you also have 3 bonuses that get shown at the beginning. 2 bonuses at the beginning. So like in this case, this one was 5 students and 3 of that particular tourist location. But again, those change up every single round. Those are shuffled and randomly distributed.
Every single game.
Yeah. So everyone takes their turn, and then basically another card gets flipped over. Now, say, for example, I have 3 straight that I'm supposed to go. However, I cannot do that because, like, if I went 2 straight over here, I would have to bend. Now, I can do that. I could take a negative penalty and end up forcing a bend when there shouldn't be. Okay? Now, also, not only am I having to force the bend, I'm also overlapping someone else's route. Now, when I do that, which happens quite a bit in late game, I will be marking off this down here bottom row for the traffic icon. So down here, basically if you hit heavy traffic or you're duplicating routes with another player, then those get marked off. And at first, you know, it takes 2 to get a -1 victory point, but towards the end, every single one's a negative victory point. So you do want to establish a unique route, right, based on the other players.
Which that gets, the more players, the more cluttered it gets, and it's more difficult to do that. The other thing is you cannot reach the same intersection you've already hit at any other point in time. So you can't even make a turn that's in a different direction at that same intersection. So if you do that, the game ends for you.
No looping, don't loop.
Yep. So you got to be careful and make sure your route takes you completely unique locations as you go through.
Yeah, so overall, it is a bit of a strategy because now 2 players, I didn't find that we didn't have to overlap too much.
No.
But that 3rd player, holy guacamole.
Yeah, it definitely increased the amount of times we had to interact with each other.
Yeah, I mean, I ended up having to make choices like, well, and at the end, basically, I was forced to go down the busy streets, which also give you a negative because, or I ended up overlapping somebody, and I was like, well, I might as well go with the busy street no matter what. I'm going to take the penalty for, and I get more people that way.
And if there's more than one person on the same route, then you're going to take a hit for both of them.
Correct. So you want to be very careful not to pin yourself in a corner. Now, Dad at one point almost pinned himself in that looping problem, and so, you know, we kind of warned him and like, Dad, you don't want to do that. But so overall, I think there's some strategy here. I know just playing it the first couple of times, you know, you're just grabbing them and trying to figure out what you have. But I know if you would play this a few more times, you're going to start realizing, oh, these are what I have left. This is the only route I'm going to be able to go. This is how many units. Like this game, I got my 3s fairly early on, where the last game I had my 3s like later on in the game. So towards the end, I thought I had more tracks left than I did, even in the same point of the game.
Yeah, I ran into a situation where I got my 3s at the end, which actually was bad because at that point everybody had already established their routes, and I was having to cross people whether I wanted to or not, just because I had to play 3 roads.
Yeah.
And, you know, that cost me several victory points down at the negative. I still won handily.
Yeah, you still kicked your butts.
Because I managed to get both of the bonuses. Now, these bonuses act similar to if you've played the Welcome to games, where you can get them and then you flip them over and everybody else can still get them, but they get less points. So they're not just one and done for the bonuses. And there's also bonuses along the way. If you hit starred locations, you count how many of that particular related passenger or you have at the point you hit that starred location, and you write that number down, and you get that as a bonus at the end of the game, which is really cool. So I think there's a lot of different ways to score in this game, and I like that. Even though it's a fairly simplistic game, there's a lot of unique ways to score it.
Yeah. So overall, pretty interesting. Got some strategy to it. Giving it a rating, though, what are you thinking?
I'm probably about 7.5. I think it's a good, solid roll and write or flip and write in this case. It's, you know, I think it's got a little meat more than some of the basic ones do, and I think it's actually better at a 3-player or a 5-player count because you're going to have much more interaction on the boards than what you are with just the 2-player. I don't think I'd want to play this 2-player again.
I was fine with it as a
You thought it was too? I like the more interaction. I think I liked it a lot more with 3 players. Yeah. I mean, I've played it too,
it kept
but it just wouldn't be as interesting.
it kept it more interesting at the 3-player. I will give you that. So, I mean, you know, I agree with you. It was fine for a flip and write. I will say it seems a little, there's so many other good ones out there.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask for you to pull this out, right? Like that. I'm trying to, I mean, it was fine. If someone's like, oh, let's play this, that's fine. But am I going to ever say, hey, let's get this out? I don't think I will.
Let's see. I mean, to me, this one is a niche in the sense that you're building a route. So it's got the little bit of the ticket ride element to it that so I actually think I enjoy this more than Ticket to Ride because I'm not just drawing cards and hoping I get the colors I want and drawing every turn, just drawing cards because that's what I end up devolving into every time I play Ticket to Ride. Here, I'm given the choice of, not really a choice, but I'm given, here's the pieces you got to play. Now I got to figure out strategically how I'm going to get the route to fall into the location.
Yeah, but you don't have. There's no strategy in picking it. It's based on what gets flipped over,
right.
And you got.
But I still have to hit
out.
Those same destinations, so I have to figure out a way to do it, and also try to maximize my scoring along the way, which is tricky. Because
I mean, to be fair, you got way more victory points than I did.
Well, yeah, because I looked at these cards and focused my strategy along with them.
Well, good for you.
So I think there's more planning and strategy in this than some of the basic roll and writes or flip and writes.
Yes.
And I think it's probably not quite as of a heavy one as, some of them like Three Sisters or The Fleet or, certainly Hadrian's Wall. So I think it's a niche in there in the middle.
I think for me is the theme leads it to be very, almost kind of a relaxing one. And there's times to get those out. But I do think that there's a heavy strategy to it that, I don't know, the theme doesn't entice me to commit that much effort into it. So, well, you'll always win when we play this. Because I think that may be it. Maybe I'm just not connecting with the game like you seem to. And hey, that happens, right? Sometimes you just can't connect, and that's okay.
I really enjoy routing games. I like the pipe games. I like the routing games. That's my favorite aspect of pipeline is building the pipes.
I like the pipes too. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't mind the routing. It just, I don't know. I'm just not connecting with it. It happens. It happens to us all.
So what's your score?
What'd you give it?
7.5.
I'm going to go with a 7. I think it's good. I think it's solid. I just think a little bit for me is just not connecting with me. And that's, as far as the game, that's not the game's problem. That's a Miranda problem. And I acknowledge a little bit of that.
Now, I will say this first player token, I'm not exactly sure what it's supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be the driver's hat in the
it's supposed to be the driver's hat.
But I'm like, it just kind of looks odd.
It's reversed.
And you don't really need it because, you're playing the game. It's more trouble to pass this around the table than it is just to remember whose turn it is.
Well, there's that. It's for people with bad memory. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We had fun hanging out with you tonight. Hopefully you'll come hang out with us again. We'll catch you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.